Now I'll be talking about files, input and output. So for file reading, we use files. Files are open and closed in Python, basically. If for reading, we open them with an argument that is called R. The associated file handle is here called infile, but can be anything. So in the example that I will show, the variable is called infile, but it doesn't really matter because I changed it actually, I think in the example 13. So yeah, I changed the name to file instead of infile. So here I named it file is equal to open. Here is the path of the file, and then here we have the R argument that stands for reading. And then we can loop over the file. This is a very easy way to actually access the file. It's just one line, and then we go through the lines in the file. For line in file, we can print the line. And here we have file.close. Let me run an example for you. I think I have opened no file. Here we go. So we have the same content I showed in the example, and here we have file.close. It is important to close the file because sometimes you will notice that if, for example, in case of reading, it doesn't really matter, but it is important. It's still important to always close the file. In the case of writing, sometimes you're writing lines inside of a file, and then you forget to close, and then the content of that file will be compromised. So please be careful when you're using files and close them all the time. Now let's run this code. So we're opening joc.txt, which is a file inside the same directory. Now if I don't put this file in this directory, then I have to give the full path for that directory. Now here is joc, and here is the file is called joc.txt, and this is the example we're looking for. We're running. They are in the same path, so we don't need to actually specify where this file is. So let's run this. Here we go. So we have read these lines out of the code. It's actually a joke that I have found on internet. So if you want to laugh, then feel free to open it and have some fun time with it. Okay, back to the slides. Okay, next part is for writing. So writing is the same thing, just like we did, but this time with a W argument. We have changed the content, the name of the file, and here let me show you a quick example of how to write in a file. It's example 14, open, and then here we go. We're writing, basically, there are two ways to write in a file. First one is your just name of the file of the variable .write, and then the content you want to write. In this case, we're writing line 1, and then here these two characters represent the new line. So if you write this, that means you want to jump the line and write again, or just jump the line. So here we're writing something else. Since we jumped the line, then we will have this content in the next line. If we don't, then it will be right next to line 1. Here print line 2, and then we're giving the name of the file. So in this case, this is just the name of the variable, but this is the name of our file. So for example, if I change this to X file, then I have to change this to X file, and this to X file is closed. This doesn't change because this is the name of the variable, the argument. I have to change this one as well. Here we go. Now let's run this. We ran it, as you can see, nothing happened. Now let's open the example file. Now, as you can see, it created a new file, new text, and the content of that file is line 1, line 2, just like we wanted. Now we can delete that file if the file doesn't exist. If the file doesn't exist, as you can see, if the file doesn't exist, it will create it again. And here we go, we find it again here. So as you can see, even if we actually write a lot of stuff in this text, and this is how we write the text, it will always create a new file. Or if it exists, it will delete the content of that file and then write what you want to write in it again. So if you want to actually read and write on the same file, then read at the end of the file, then you have to basically use this argument RW. So read and write, and then here we can basically run this again, and it should. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not read and write, it's append. So if we use this as append again, then we can open the files, the new file, and we should find 4 lines. Yeah, line 1, line 2 from the first run, and then line 1, line 2 from the second run. So now we're done with files input outputs. There's a lot to talk about files input output, but this is the content I have talked about during the workshop. Now if you want to know more about files input and output, you should check the Python tutorials on the Python website or other tutorials. They are very interesting, and I recommend you to check them out.